Welcome to Elevated Women. I'm Myra Swan Kotze. If you are a woman in senior leadership, an executive carrying the weight of massive responsibility, this space is for you. My clients often call me their secret weapon, not for strategy or tactics, but for managing the silent accumulation of pressure that comes with leading at this level. Here we talk about the one thing most leadership spaces ignore: how that pressure lives in your body. This is where we explore what it really takes to stay in the role you love without your health, your clarity, or your family paying the price. I'm glad to have you here. Hello, and welcome back to Elevated Woman. In our first two conversations, we explored how leadership pressure lives in the body and why the resilience we've been praised for is often just a high-level ability to brace ourselves against the storm. Today, I want to take this conversation into a space that is often very private for women in senior leadership. I want to talk about your mind. Specifically, I want to talk about your cognitive clarity, that sharpness, that edge that has been your greatest asset throughout your career. You didn't arrive in your role by being average. You arrived here because you have a high-capacity brain. You are a strategic thinker. You can walk into the boardroom, see 20 different variables, and instinctively know which 3 are the most critical. You've built a career on your ability to process complexity, make fast decisions, and lead with a sense of calm certainty. But I want to ask you a very honest question, one that you might not even be ready to admit to your partner, to yourself, or your board. Lately, does it feel like that edge is flickering? Maybe you're finding it harder to find the right words in a high-stakes conversation, or you're feeling a sense of mental saturation by 2 p.m. that leaves you feeling hollowed out for the rest of the day. If you're experiencing this, your first instinct is likely to blame yourself. You might think you're just tired. You might think you need better time management, or, and this is the fear many women harbor at their late 40s and early 50s, you might think you're simply losing it. That age is catching up with you, and your best intellectual years are behind you. As a specialist, I'm here to tell you that that is not what's happening. You aren't losing your talent. You aren't losing your intelligence. What you are experiencing is a cognitive tax, a biological withdrawal from your brain's processing power because your nervous system has been redlining for too long. To understand why your clarity is flickering, we have to look at the biology of how you think. Your brain is not a static machine. It is a biological organ that requires an immense amount of energy. In fact, while the brain is only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes about 20% of your metabolic energy. And the most expensive part of your brain to run is the prefrontal cortex. This is what I call your executive brain. This is the seat of high-level strategy, complex logic, emotional regulation, and, crucially, your intuition. It's the part of you that makes you a great leader. But there is a catch. The executive brain is a luxury system. It only functions at 100% capacity when the body feels biologically safe. And you need to hear that again. It only functions at 100% capacity when the body feels biologically safe. When your nervous system is carrying the silent accumulation of pressure we talked about in episode 1, when you are in a constant state of bracing your endurance, your body doesn't think you are in the boardroom. It thinks you are in survival mode. And in survival mode, the body is incredibly efficient. It doesn't want to spend energy on high-level strategy or nuanced leadership. It wants to spend energy on staying alive. What happens is a process called cortisol inhibition. Essentially, what happens is when your stress hormone like cortisol and adrenaline stay elevated for too long, your body literally throttles the energy going to your prefrontal cortex. It moves that energy down into the older, more reactive parts of your brain, the part responsible for fight, flight, and freeze. This is why when you're under sustained pressure, you stop being a visionary leader and you start becoming a reactive problem solver. You stop seeing the big picture because your brain has literally narrowed its focus to the immediate threat. You aren't losing your edge. Your brain is simply rerouting its power to keep you standing. You are trying to solve 2026 corporate complexities with a primitive survival brain that was never designed for this level of cognitive load. I want you to think about the sheer volume of micro decisions you make in a single day. As a woman in a senior role, you aren't just deciding on budgets or strategies. You are constantly evaluating the climate of your team. You're noticing the slight tension between two directors. You're adjusting your tone to make sure a difficult message is received correctly. You're processing thousands of inputs every hour. Every one of these inputs require cognitive bandwidth. Think of your brain like a high-end laptop. When you first start the day, the battery is full and the processor is fast. But if you have 50 different tabs open, unresolved conversations, pending decisions, the pressure of a deadline, the worry about a family member, the processor starts to heat up, the fan starts spinning. Eventually, the system starts to lag. For the executive woman, this lag looks like decision fatigue. It's that feeling at the end of the day where you walk into the kitchen and when your partner asks, "What do you want to eat for dinner?" and you feel like you just actually can burst out into tears because you cannot make one more decision. You've used up your cognitive currency for the day. But here is the thing that most coaches miss. Most leadership advice tells you to prioritize better. They tell you to eat the frog and do the hard thing first. They treat your brain like a calendar that just needs better organization. But if your nervous system is stuck in a state of chronic activation, your processor is already overloaded before you even open the laptop. You can't time management your way out of an overheated nervous system. You aren't struggling because you're disorganized. You're struggling because your brain is functioning in a low power mode to protect itself from the sheer volume of pressure you've been carrying for years. This is where the conversation gets intimate, because this cognitive cost often peaks right around the time many women reach their late 40s or early 50s. We're going to talk about this more in a later episode, but there is a biological intersection that happens here. This hormonal landscape changes. As estrogen and progesterone shifts, your brain's buffer against stress begins to thin. In your 30s, you could probably power through the brain fog. You could pull an all-nighter or handle a month of high-stakes pressure and bounce back. But at 50, the body says no more. The brain fog many women describes at this age isn't a sign of cognitive decline. It is a safety signal. Your nervous system is essentially pulling the circuit breaker. It's saying, I cannot sustain this level of input and output anymore without a total system failure. When you feel that flickering clarity, it's not an invitation to push harder. It's an invitation to regulate. I see so many brilliant women begin to step back from their role at this age, not because they have lost their passion, but because they are terrified that their brain fog will be discovered. They feel like imposters because they can't think as fast as they used to. They start to wonder if they should just retire early or take a smaller role because they don't think that they can keep up. To me, it's heartbreaking to watch a woman walk away from her legacy because of a physiological state that is completely reversible. Yes, you heard me. It is completely reversible. Your edge isn't gone. It's just buried under layers of unresolved stimulation. When we stabilize the nervous system, when we actually give your body the signals of the safety it needs, your executive brain comes back online. I have seen so many women who thought they were done suddenly find a level of clarity and intuition they haven't felt in decades. Not because they took some time or some course or did some mindset work, but because they cleared the static out of their biology. So as we close this conversation today, I want you to do a quick cognitive audit. Notice how you feel right now. Does your mind feel spacious or does it feel full? When you think about the decisions waiting for you tomorrow, do you feel a sense of capability or do you feel a slight internal shudder of exhaustion? If you feel that exhaustion, I want you to hear this. This is not your fault. You have been operating at a high-performance system in a state of chronic low power mode. You have been paying a cognitive tax that is simply too high. Leadership will always require your mind. It will always require your focus, but it shouldn't require you to bankrupt your cognitive health just to stay in your seat. In the next episode, we are going to talk about the warning lights. We are going to look at exactly how your body tries to tell you that the tax is becoming too high long before you hit the wall of burnout. We're going to learn how to read the somatic dashboard of your own leadership. If you realize that you've been blaming yourself for a fog that is actually physiological, I want to invite you to take a breath. There is a way to lead where your clarity is protected. There is a way to stay in the game without losing the very mind that got you here. If something in this conversation resonated with you, and you're a woman in senior leadership who recognizes the impact sustained pressure may be having on your body, I invite you to learn more about my private work at myraswankotze.com. I work with a small number of executive women who want to stabilize their nervous system, protect their health, and continue leading without their body quietly carrying the cost. I also invite you to follow the podcast so that we can continue this journey together. It ensures each new episode is waiting for you whenever you are ready to tune back into your body. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on the next episode.